Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here today. I'll be your host for the technical analysis here today, and that's really what we do here in case you're new to the channel. We just look at the technical charts, and what we're doing today is we're looking at CTSI. No, it's not a crime scene investigation cryptocurrency. That'd be cool if it was, but instead it's just a regular standalone cryptocurrency. It's doing very well in the market right now. I got a lot of requests to cover it, so we're going to take a look at that here today. Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research. I have years of trading experience, but this is only for educational purposes only, as well as the fact that there is $25 in Bitcoin available down below in the description in case you'd like to claim that from Voyager, in addition to a link to our Telegram community and my Patreon account. Feel free to reference that at your own time. Without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. Let's get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at CTSI, which is crime scene investigation. Just kidding, it's not. But it is a very popular one, extremely high volume, and a lot of momentum right now in volatility, which is what we like to see as day traders, short-term swing traders, and potential hodlers, right? Now, before we get into it, we're gonna look at Bitcoin first, and then move on to Ethereum, get a baseline and see what's going on in the industry right now, and then transition, of course, to CTSI so we can see a little bit deeper dive into the technical data. All right, so let's take a look. First things first is Bitcoin. All right, so Bitcoin's been interesting. You've probably, if you've seen my videos already, you'll note that I am not a fan of the up and down, above and beyond, essentially trying to figure itself out at the 57,000 support and resistance level. Thankfully, it's above that, and it's hovering around 58,500. So great news. But just know this 200-day moving average is essentially that major support and resistance level at roughly 57,000. Now, the 50-day moving average just essentially joined the party, so we have a pretty strong support there if the price decides it wants to sell off. Okay, so that's an excellent sign. I like that, and that really helps us understand kind of where the momentum is. It's trending upwards. We're looking good. Hopefully it can continue to maintain and break 60,000, and then we're kind of in the home stretch, so to speak, and everything else can start to grow. But big picture, 57,000 is still a major support level right now. Potential resistance if it breaks, but I'm hoping it'll stay above because this is the longest it's stayed above so far in the past 2 weeks or week and a half, however long it's been up there. That's interesting. So that is essentially the 4-hour chart. I forgot to mention that. This is a 4-hour chart on Bitcoin. The purple line is the 200-day moving average. I guess that would be magenta is the 100-day, and the 50 is this yellow line here. So the 200 and the 50 are both hanging out at 57,000, which is a great sign. It gives us a pretty good support. So let's moving on to Ethereum. Let's take a look here at this guy. Now Ethereum is, it's moving. Now, just to get perspective really quick, just so you understand kind of timeline-wise, the 17th of April back here, the first judgment day for Bitcoin. That's what happened there. That kind of caused Ethereum to slow down and consolidate. It tried to ramp back up, second major sell-off, consolidation, third major sell-off on the 25th, and it's been pretty much home run ever since. And this right here, this is the consolidation we saw from Bitcoin recently, the indecision. Because what happens is when people buy, or correction, they sell Bitcoin, they decide to transition over to Ethereum. Okay, so that's why we see that up and down pattern, because they're trying to find the best price, and Ethereum is usually the place to go when Bitcoin takes a dive, right? So anyways, that's kind of what's going on, and of course now that Bitcoin is above 57,000 and staying there, you can see these last 3 to 4 4-hour bars are essentially in a bullish momentum, bullish sentiment. MACD swung upwards, RSI is up over 70. That makes sense because it's selling off a little bit now. There's a little bit of retracement. But nonetheless, this is good. Ethereum hit its all-time high of roughly 3,950. Perhaps next year we'll get to 39. Who knows, maybe this year, whatever. That's Ethereum, 4-hour chart, big picture, that's what you're looking at. So let's move on to CTSI. So for CTSI, this is the 1-day chart first, and we always look at the 1-day chart first, 4-hour, 15-minute, and then 1 minute. I usually just get big perspective. I like to look at the big bird's eye view and then get down to a cellular level, just so we can try to help find a good entry point for you, right? That's kind of the key, is to help make sure that you are educated and we find a good point of entry. Based on what I see here right now, I wouldn't say there is a good point of entry, just because I'm a conservative trader. If you're a risky trader, that's fine. You can do you. But this may not be the video for you, because honestly, I don't like to take risky positions, and the fact that it ramped up so fast, so quickly, tells me that this retracement might be a little bit larger than previous ones. Anyways, we'll get into it a little bit more. But at this point, if we look down below, MACD is overextended, RSI is above 70, and we're just definitely looking at in bullish territory. But I think the sentiment will be starting to shift. I'm sure the 4-hour chart will tell us a little bit different story. But if you look at this here, you see right here the previous RSI. Look at how high up that got. Shoot, that almost hit 100. And as you can see, massive retracement followed by a consolidation period. So that's pretty standard, pretty normal. I would expect this pattern to perform similarly. It's a very common pattern you see in cryptocurrency, where the price ramps up 1 or 2, 3 days in a row, and then we see about 3 or 4 days of retracement. So I'd venture to guess this is not done retracing yet, but we'll look and see a little closer and find out. Here's the 4-hour chart. So taking a look at the 4-hour chart again, tells us kind of a similar situation. It's not like all that different what you see right now, but the difference is the fact that the moving averages are essentially more valid and more reliable. Okay, so I put a lot of weight in the 4-hour chart when it comes to the moving averages. It's not going to be relevant right now, but it might be soon. I would say in the next 2 or 3 days, perhaps sooner, depending on how fast it retraces down. We'll see this 50-day moving average tested, and we'll see if it works as a support or continues to, because it is an approximate support a couple of days ago. Okay, so the average price is kind of coming up that way, and the average true range is narrowing, but I have a feeling we're still going to see further retracement. So be cautious with your entry. We'll look at the 50-minute chart here soon and see, but at this point, all the indicators are telling me that this is extremely overbought and a little bit on the high side, so just be cautious. Don't get into the hype train. Hopefully you're not watching this video right now after having already done so. And actually, if you are or have done so, perhaps consider selling as a result of seeing this, because we'll likely be able to identify the fact that this might be overbought, and we'll see soon. Really quick though, down below here, again, RSI is extremely overbought at about 85. That is way too high. And the MACD, of course, again, overextended. So that being said, we're not in dire straits. It's not terrible. The price could level out and continue back upwards. I've seen bull runs happen like that, but the fact that it went up this fast, this quick, there has to be somewhat of retracement. This may just be a consolidation and then another increase. It's hard to truly know when bull runs are over in this industry, just because there's a lot of hype and a lot of momentum that can occur from people jumping in too late, and price being driven up by the massive whales. That could be the case. So again, do your own research, do your research on the fundamentals and see why this happened, because there's likely some type of catalyst that caused this to occur. Moving on to the 15-minute chart. So taking a look here, 15-minute chart, we can see obviously increase, consolidation, increase, consolidation. So it's kind of following a similar pattern in a sense, whereas these strong increases in price are followed by a consolidation period, and then a retracement. Ramp back up, retrace, ramp up, consolidate. So usually when you see a pattern like that, it can be a good thing in the big picture, because of the fact that it could continue to be a bull run. But in my experience, it doesn't usually continue to work out that way, because the price is over exaggerated right now. Even though the RSI looks good, that's not really a super big indicator on the 15-minute chart when the RSI is under 70, but when it is above 70, it's a really strong indication to consider trimming or selling some of your position. So let me give you an example here, and if you see my videos too, you probably know where I'm going with this, because when the RSI goes up over 70 on the 15-minute chart, I think it's really a good indication of telling us what's going on with the industry. In other words, is it overbought, or should I hold my position, right? So we look at this here, just take this for example. This is one of the first major peaks. That one just peaked over a little bit, but it fell off. I mean, you can look at that too, right? So if we look at this guy right there, we see the price come up and it comes back down because it was considered overbought, right? And then if we look at the RSI, coincidentally, it's a little too high. It's over 70, right? Same thing here as well. Price jumps up over 70, came up too high, had to come back down. Right? It's kind of like an average rule, like the average true range of the price couldn't be found. It was too high, so it's correcting itself. So if we look at that and we continue here, we see the same thing happen here as well. It peaked up over 70, not extremely overbought, but still considered overbought. And what do you know? It sold off and retraced a little bit. Now that doesn't look like a large amount, but that's because they increased recently. But if we take this here and look, the difference between, just say, bottom and top, correction, hold on. I picked the wrong spot, one sec. So right here, bottom and top. That is a almost 12, just say 11% retracement. That's pretty significant, right? I mean, in my opinion, any kind of increase or decrease over 5% is pretty substantial. So, you know, to see that in a 15-minute period, maybe 30 minutes, that's kind of a big correction. But that happens when it's considered overbought and the price is essentially too high for the time frame. Now, looking up here, we see that the RSI just tapped 70 right here. Okay, so this is not a bad sign. This is a good sign. The price is over VWAP. It's a little extended here, so you know that's a bit of a concern. It's right about 17-18% from the VWAP. So it's no wonder why the price is retracing and coming back down. Because anytime the volume weighted average price, there's a difference in that VWAP and the top price, then there's commonly retracement as well. So even though the RSI is under 70, you're still looking at a cause for concern there with the VWAP being overextended. So just in case you're not familiar, and I'll make future videos regarding this too, the volume weighted average price is, well, for one, my favorite indicator. The main reason why is because it takes a 24-hour period of volume and creates a support and resistance level that is essentially an average price based on what it should be. Okay, so in this case here, the average price for this currency, when it was overextended to $1.73, it really should have been $1.50. Okay, and that significant variance of almost 17% caused the price to come back down because it's overbought. Okay, so that's kind of the concept, the consideration there, just a note to understand. So if I were to take entry in this climate right now, without looking at the 1 minute chart, which honestly I traditionally take my entry points because I'm more of a short-term swing trader. I use the 50-minute chart almost always to take entry. I glance at the 1 minute chart to understand the big picture, the smaller picture, and see what's really going on. But the 15-minute is kind of my determining factor. And what I do is I wait for the price. I would wait for the price to come down, to bounce off the volume weighted average price, and to essentially test it and hold for no less than 30 minutes. Okay, so if it does that and it holds for 30 minutes, then that would be a cause for me to want to potentially take an entry, right? And I would take a small position. I wouldn't take a large position. It would essentially just be maybe 20-30% of my total, and I would take a position. I would wait for the price to increase back up, of course, and I would try to shoot for anywhere between a 3 to 6% win, gain, however you look at it. So just say hypothetically the price comes down here, right? And it bounces off VWAP and it holds as a support for no less than 30 minutes. And what I mean by that is we're going to see two green bars closing. So for example, see these two green bars here? As soon as that second one closes, that would be a case in point where I'd want to take entry because it's got that momentum, RSI is under 70, and I would probably ride the wave to take this little bit of gains right there. But just say for example the price comes down here to VWAP, comes up, only 6% there. So my goal would be to try to get this here. So if it comes down, bounces off, and comes up, I would enter my position here, and I'd likely take and close my position out right there. Again, that's the kind of trader that I am. I like to take almost sure bets, right? I don't like to let it ride. I don't like to ride the lightning, so to speak. It's just dangerous and scary and tumultuous. I've had too many losses in the day to essentially be a little gun shy. Again, that's just me. Do what you want, but please always wait for confirmation. 30 minutes or more is ideal, in my personal opinion. And again, it's taken me years to figure this out, but I think I finally got it down, and I can tell you I have tremendously more green days than red days, mostly because of that one thing. But I also always look at the RSI. As long as the RSI is under 70, you're in very, very good shape. Okay, so this works very well if the RSI is under 70. If it's peaking or hitting 70, that's a case in point where you likely want to get out. Okay, so just say you'd gotten in right here, for example. Then what I'd do is I'd come up and I wait until the RSI is still under 70, and right there it peaks out at 70. Right as soon as it hits that point, I would have sold, taking my profit. That's probably a good 6% gain right there. Again, easier said than done, of course, because this is after the fact. Oh yes, obviously you would have taken the gains because you can see that it went down after. No, I would look at the indicators and understand that it's overbought, and I would sell it before it became so, right? Too many of us in crypto want to be able to just ride it until we get that feeling. There's that feeling that you get from trading, and it's exciting, it's fun, it's nice, but it's also very hazardous, and it's not recommended. So if you watch enough of my videos, you'll note that I just have a tendency of being more conservative, more safe, and that's because I've been burned over the years. So anyways, take that what you will, call me what you want, but I can tell you, if you're a safer trader in this climate, you'll always be a profitable trader, because we really just need to survive to trade another day, right? All right, so moving on, let's go ahead and take a look at the 1 minute chart just for S&Gs to see kind of what's going on here. Again, I just like to glance at the 1 minute chart to see what's going on. I don't necessarily use this as my entry point, but again, same scenario. I don't feel comfortable with this right now because, first of all, we'll just use the 50-day moving average, which is still valid on the 1 and the 15-minute chart. Price is traveling under the 50-day moving average and is traveling above VWAP. So this is not enough confirmation for me to want to take entry. I would wait for the 15-minute chart to reflect that much, to reflect some kind of consistency with no less than 30 minutes of confirmation by closing above the VWAP. All right, so that's essentially what I think about there and what I look at. One last thing I want to do is just identify some support and resistance lines. Usually it's kind of hard to do when the price action keeps going up like this, but we want to make sure to establish a support level just in case we lose VWAP and the price continues to go down. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So support lines, again, when you're drawing support lines, you're going to want to draw a support line based on how many times it touches a certain level and is either rejected or creates a resistance line otherwise. So looking here, this was tested 1, 2, 3, 4 times before it broke. So why don't we go ahead and mark that? I have to hope the price doesn't come back down that low, but if it does, 129 approximately is a good support level. And take a look at this here. Do you see this massive increase right there? It just shot through it, right? That's what happens a lot. Anytime you have a resistance level that's touched or tapped or it tries to be broken multiple times, when it finally is broken, it usually jumps straight through it. So that's an easy way to identify support and resistance lines, because you can see the price just straight up blew through it. Okay, so in that 30-minute period, the price increased a lot. It it really just killed it, right? No other way to describe it. The same thing probably happened here too, if you can see. Coincidentally, this other support potential resistance level was tapped 3 times, and then also worked as a support 3 more times. So we'll mark that as well. So secondary support, or more so primary support's roughly about 148. So if price comes down and it doesn't go anywhere past the current all-time high of approximately 173, then we should expect to see the price come down here, test the support level, and either bounce off and come back up. And at that point, you wait for confirmation before taking entry. But if it just say breaks that and comes below, then it would work as a stronger resistance line, and this would be considered a resistance level after that point at 149. And then, of course, it'd be working itself back into this channel here, and we'd see what happened. Of course, it would likely test the support later if it does come down that far, because a lot of times these retracements will come down approximately 50% of their original increase. So let's take a quick look at that one last thing. So we look at this here. In one day, we had an increase of approximately 88%, right? So I would not be surprised if this support level right here becomes tested at 128, because that's almost half the distance between the top and the bottom of that 1 day of trading. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the price stays up there and continues, but I can tell you that there's a likelihood, of course, of it coming down and essentially testing that support, possibly breaking the previous resistance. Anyways, that is essentially what I wanted to kind of bring to your attention. Hopefully this is beneficial for you and you learned something today. If you haven't, reference some of my videos. I'm actually making training videos soon to ensure that we can kind of get like a beginner, intermediate, and advanced option through my Patreon account, so just please feel free to reference that. But more so importantly, take entry only after confirmation, which is 30 minutes, 2 solid green bars. Ensure their RSI is under 70. Those are like the 2 most important things you can start with. Everything else is just kind of getting an eye for it and eventually figuring out, how to look at the charts. I didn't learn this overnight. If it's any consolation, it takes years of practice, but the fact is you're trying to learn and you're trying to do better for yourself. And I respect that, and I think that's awesome. So thank you for being an awesome community member. If you are, if you're not, feel free to like and subscribe. Really appreciate your generosity and support. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.